Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What's the most fucked up thing you have ever read? My dad's court papers when he was busted with kiddie porn. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and seeing the collateral consequences of my clients' actions on their families never fails to take a piece of my soul. I hope you are able to heal. I had a friend in law enforcement who got assigned to some sort of cyber task force specifically investigating it. He ended up in early retirement on disability. He did not go into detail other than what he used to do and that it fucked him up. I'm sorry. You okay? The diary of my father, who was suffering from schizophrenia. The diary clearly detailed how he wants to kill the entire family and then himself. Poor soul, from some Reddit guy whose father was also a schizophrenic. Hope he's finally at peace. I have a similar story, but it was my older brother. He texted me while I was at school saying he was coming to pick me up and was going to kill me then hang himself. He thought it was what was needed for the second coming of Christ. I left school and stayed at a friend's house for a couple weeks. When I came back home, he asked me why it seemed like I was avoiding him, so I told him to check his texts between us. He broke down crying and said he didn't remember any of it. He killed himself less than a year later. The torture and murder of Junko Furuta. My brain is like, I must know, but I think I should pass based on the consensus. It's a case of kidnapping, torture, and eventual murder. It's particularly harrowing because it was a teenage girl victim with other teenagers as the perpetrators. There's many reasons to believe some adults knew it was happening but looked the other way. It lasted for days, and the torture methods were so elaborate and extreme. That's the gentlest summary I can come up with. The Wikipedia page starts out pretty benign and only gets into the gritty details later. I'd start there and stop reading when I start to feel uncomfortable. I feel like her story is important to tell. I watched a video about it when I was 15 and had to take a break because I was having a panic attack. It still bothers me to this day. Toy box killer transcript. I would challenge someone to find something as fucked up honestly. Edit. I'm very serious, this is not encouraging you to go read it. The fact that he did it enough times that he made a tape of the instructions just to streamline the process is unnerving enough. That's the thing that kills me about it. He got so tired of making that speech he decided he needed to tape it to make his life easier. Can I get the bare bones, trauma-informed summary? A deranged man and woman built a room in a semi-trailer full of terrible devices. They created a tape to explain to the victim, mostly teen girls as far as I recall, why she was there and what was going to happen. I believe they also recorded the events. After a few months, the women were then drugged with barbiturates in attempt to erase their memories and then set free if they survived. They were eventually caught when a woman managed to get free. It's best you leave it there. I wish I had. The guy died in 2002 thankfully. Edit. Changed women to teen girls. Two dudes, torture and kill a girl in a van. They met in prison and decided when they got out they were going to go on a murder-torture spree. They recorded the torture. It's only been played in public one time, in court. There is a news recording where you can hear some of the screams through the door of the courthouse with people in the courtroom leaving in complete tears and shock. They released a transcript which reads like a play. You should not read it. I wish I never read it. The main detective committed suicide some years later and specifically mentions this case in his suicide note. Edit. Apparently I have the wrong killers. Wild, we have toy box and toolbox killers who can keep up with these sick fucks. I remember seeing something about a guy purposely infecting other people with his disease. Happens all the time with statids. If you can prove that the person intentionally infected you, though, you can sue them for lifelong damages and they'll have to pay you for the rest of their life. I remember seeing some story about a guy who infected 6 different women with statids and he was getting 60% of his paychecks garnished. Well deserved. My lab results. My ex was poisoning me with salicylic acid. Oh fuck, are you okay? I had to go to the hospital 4 times. I am just now getting tests done as I believe I have kidney damage, which is much better than death, which the last trip though I was gonna die. Open veins of Latin America. About a coup that took place and soldiers tossing babies onto bayonets like they were playing horseshoes. The Japanese did this during the Sino-Japanese War as well. The absolute vile things humans are capable of never cease to shock and disturb me. Worse, it makes me wonder if I'm capable of such horrors. What would it take to turn me into a monster? Information boards at Chungak, aka the killing fields in Cambodia, tell of a particular tree, which is still there and can be walked right up to, being the solid surface that babies and small children's heads were smashed against to kill them during Pol Pot's murderous cleansing of the country. Soldiers would hold the infants by their feet and have competitions over how many they could tally in a day. It was horrific enough, but then I read that last part and decided to leave early. A story about a woman who would dumpster dive for rotten meat with maggots to insert them inside herself to orgasm until they eventually started eating her alive. Grimace. I wish I was blind for today. Then you would be reading it in Braille, touching the words. Oh, Blowfly Girl. The torture and murders of Junko Furuta, Kellyanne Bates, Sylvia Likens, and also the radiation death of Hisashi Aochi. Books wise, Tender is the Flesh. Tender is the Flesh is the best book that I would never recommend to most people in my life. Tender is the Flesh is honestly child's play compared to other in the extreme horror genre. No One Rides for Free has a disclaimer about 1/3 through that breaks the fourth wall and basically says, last chance, this gets really fucked up now. And it absolutely does. Story of John Edward Jones and Nutty Putty Cave. Such a sad story. Also nightmare-inducing. Just don't squirm into crevices like a grub and it won't happen to you lol. Read the one about the Paria diving accident. That one will make anyone cry. Not guys doing something for fun but just doing the job. Pensive face. I'm not saying that anyone deserves to die like that, but when it's your job that puts you in that position it feels so terrible. Working with a special needs victim of child essay, I read that she used to cover herself with her own feces so that her abuser wouldn't essay her. When I was younger, I worked at 7-Eleven. During your computer training, you sit through a portion about taking the trash out to the dumpster. It very clearly tells you that it isn't uncommon for people to try to drag you into the dumpster enclosure and that your best course of defense is to urinate or defecate on yourself to make yourself less appealing. I wish I was fucking lying. I didn't have this training when I worked at Barnes & Noble, but we had training where we always, and I mean ALWAYS, had another person take the trash out with us. I also had a great manager who would walk each of us cafe girls to the car at night when we closed. We would walk together in a group and he would watch us drive off. I can't count how many times I was relieved he was there. But I don't know if it was this location specific or otherwise. I worked in a mental health facility for a short time and worked with nurses who worked in children's mental health facilities. This is a common practice for a lot of children who are SAD, and I'll never forget some of the things she said about her experiences. There was a case I studied when in university. A young, 4 to 6-year-old, refused to poop until she had an accident because it felt like penetration from when she was assaulted. Or the brutal rape of 8-year-old Na Yong. She was assaulted so horrifically, vaginally, anally and between her ears, she was left sitting up in a church bathroom to stop her intestines from falling out of her. Between her ears. I'm almost afraid to ask, but what? I'm guessing they mean her mouth. Skeptical smiley face. I braved the thread for so long, but this certainly made me pause. The guy who thought he had a poop fetish but didn't. Always a tragic experience. Maybe he was just an aphrodisiac. It's someone that gets off to the relief of taking a good dump, not touching or eating it. Way more wholesome. Oh no, the guy was really into watching porn of it for years, until he tried it out for real. This thread. Poop knife. Is that more fucked up than the dude who broke both his arms? The Jolly Rancher story, maybe. That reminds me of the teenage farm kid who got both arms ripped off in farm machinery and dialed 911 with a pencil between his teeth. Then stood in the bathtub so he wouldn't get blood on his mom's nice carpet. IRC. Swamps of Dagobah has entered the chat. I once read a real case about a man who kept his victim alive for weeks in a hidden basement, pretending to be their savior while actually being the kidnapper. The psychological manipulation was more disturbing than the violence itself. Sounds like the movie 10 Cloverfield Lane. I know that this isn't the life that you prefer, and that it's been hard for you to come down here, but I really want us to be a happy family, you and me. The mess is all taken care of, so I'll go get dinner started. The poop that took a pee. First or second release. Personally, I think it was far better than the tale of Scroty McBoogerballs. Do you actually want to know? I've spent a lot of time talking with victims of sexual abuse, particularly child sexual abuse. A lot of the stories have broad similarities. The one that really stood out was a woman who wrote that when men came over, her parents insisted that one of them be in the room to watch. As a lawyer, I second the child essay stories. Nothing's more depressing. It's scary how common pedophilia is, and majority of the cases go unreported. I find it hard to comment on this thread with personal experiences. So many of these are stupid or silly or 5 steps removed. I had to read a victim statement of a son, grown at the time of trial, who was molested nightly by his dad. His mother was a drug addict, so the courts removed custody and gave sole custody to the dad. He was taken out of school. Not allowed out of the house unaccompanied. That's a nightmare. The worst part of it. He would later become molester himself. The old, hurt people mindset. One of the common themes or common mistakes I've seen people make is that if one parent is bad, the other is good. It's often strategic. If you accept both are bad, you create a tougher situation. It hurts to see kids stuck with a bad parent because the supposedly worse one is gone. The Wikipedia plot summary of a Serbian film. Pro tip: don't do it. My dumbass will do the opposite. It was too over the top to be disturbing. The movie, I mean, it almost felt like satire. Also how I felt. A post from Just Non-Mom where the op described how her mother would beat her, usually with a belt, and how one time her mother did that while pregnant and she went so hard that she gave herself a miscarriage and blamed op for killing their unborn sibling. A child called it book. My parents made me read this when I was like 10, probably in an effort to make their abuse seem acceptable by comparison.